Viltrox recently sent me the 75mm f1.2 for Sony APS-C Pro lens, which means it has autofocus. Now this ends up being about 112mm in full frame equivalent, but it's a spectacular lens that performs really well, especially considering the price. Now the lens has a nice metal construction. It's got this really great aperture ring that can be clicked or declicked. So it can be a clicked movement or a smooth movement if you're doing more video modes. And of course it also has an autofocus on and off toggle and a focus hold button or programmable button, depending on the Sony body you're using. The focus ring has a nice feel to it. It's really nicely dampened. It turns really nice. This lens does have a 77mm front filter thread, and of course the aperture, which goes all the way from f1.2 to f16. But you can also put it in auto mode where you can control it from the camera body. So, but the aperture at f1.2, look at the front element on that thing. How big and ridiculously amazing it looks. Lets a lot of light through. And then you can go all the way to f16. I do find that the bokeh actually looks pretty nice probably because you can blow it out so far, and because this is such a long focal length, especially on APS-C, considering you come in at about 112mm. But yeah, I didn't find it too busy or too many hard edges. Overall, the lens is great. One cool thing to note is that it has a nice weather sealing here, which is important for people like me who shoot in the wilderness in Alaska. It also has a nice little USB port here for USB-C for firmware upgrades to the lens. Overall, the performance of this lens really is surprising for the price, both in image quality and also how well the autofocus performs. From an image quality standpoint in photos, there's very little distortion. The lens performs really well. Now there is some vignetting at f1.2, but that sharpens up and cleans up a lot as soon as you get into the f5.6, f4, f5.6 range. And then the lens performs beautifully beyond that. And when I mean vignetting, it's very, very minimal vignetting. In photo mode, I found the autofocus to be really fast, very responsive, not quite on par with the native Sony lens, but very, very good for a third-party lens. And in video mode, the autofocus performs really well. As you can see here, as I put my face in and out, eye detect, face detect, both work well, and the lens responds really quickly. I keep my focus settings set to pretty slow because I like the slower focus movements in video mode, but if you set it to fast, then the lens performs really well. Definitely surprisingly good at this price point. Now, because this is for Sony APS-C, and as you can see here, it doesn't cover full frame, it definitely is an APS-C lens. However, because this lens is essentially about 112mm when you consider full frame equivalent, I really like that focal range for being able to just compress the background and get some nice detail shots. Now for close focus distance, you are limited to about 2.89 feet or about 0.88 meters, so a little under a meter. But considering the focal range that you're shooting at, 112mm, it actually gives you some really nice compression. Now I've tested other Viltrox lenses before, including their 24mm, which was also a really great performer for the price, but the 75mm is really impressive, especially if you're a Sony APS-C shooter and you want to pick up something that has a little bit longer focal length, but great light gathering capability at f1.2 if you shoot in a lot of low light situations. This lens is definitely one you should consider. But next, you're going to want to watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below, or join my live stream, which happens Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern, most of the time. I'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers!